Hello guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing great. So today I want to talk about 6 fragrances. Some of them are fairly newer releases, while the others have been around for a while, and I've only gotten my nose on them recently. And they won't be full reviews of these 6 fragrances, but I thought that I would share my thoughts on what I think of these 6 fragrances. Some of them I'm really enjoying, while a few of them I'm not so sure will work out. So let's start with the first one by the house of Phaedon, and this is Tabac Rouge, a fragrance that I added to my collection in the fall. I thought that this would be the perfect scent profile. I've seen others speak about this fragrance. I did notice that the packaging has changed. The bottle was darker and now it's this clear bottle. And this is the 50 ml, the smaller size. And I wore this to work once and I've sprayed it on skin a few times and I absolutely love this fragrance. So as the name would suggest, it's a tobacco fragrance. I think it's compared to Tobacco Vanille by the house of Tom Ford. I do own Tobacco Vanille, but I did not do a side-by-side. I did not compare the 2 fragrances. I know that when I sprayed this, I immediately thought, wow, I really love this. I really like the honey and the tobacco and the cinnamon. So for me, this is all about honey and tobacco and cinnamon, and it's done just right. It's not too sweet. It's warm. The tobacco is not too dark, in my opinion. It feels very natural. It feels almost like a green sort of fresh tobacco. And the honey in here is not too syrupy, gloopy, too sweet. It's perfect. It gives me sort of like an ambery color as an image in my mind. And I absolutely get the cinnamon touches in here as well. So it's a really nice, warm, cozy fragrance. I like how it wears on skin. And I will say that the performance, the one time that I wore this as my scent of the day, I was smelling this for hours late into the afternoon. So I think the performance with this fragrance is really fantastic. I find it quite unisex and I'm really, really loving this. I'm glad that I added this to my collection. It was a blind buy, but it's really great. I think a few of you have commented about this fragrance in some of the comments on a few of my videos. So I went ahead and blind bought it and there are no regrets. Really loving this. So that's Tabac Rouge. So the next one is from the house of Ormonde Jayne, and this is a great looking bottle. I like the orange colored bottles, and this is Muscat. And this was released in 2021, so it's been around for a few years. And this fragrance really, really surprised me, only because the fragrances that I have by the house of Ormonde Jayne, and I think I have about 3 or 4 at this point, I think 4. All of them are actually quite aromatic and there's that certain DNA and they're very classy and they're not necessarily light wearing, but I find them sort of translucent and delicate to an extent. With the exception of Tangier, I have a travel size of Tangier and I find that one quite synthetic. It's nice, but it's a little bit more synthetic than some of the other ones that I have, like Ormonde Woman, and then I have Tolu, and I also have Sarina Intensiva, which I think is discontinued. So compared to those fragrances, this one struck me as quite different because this one is darker and sweeter and richer. So there is oud in here, but it's not a barnyardy, dirty oud. It's oud done by the house of Ormonde Jayne, which keeps things kind of clean. So it's definitely a Western wearable oud, but it is definitely a prominent part of the fragrance. And there is definitely a good amount of sweetness and there's this like sort of thick aspect to the fragrance. I feel like it wears thick on skin, even though it's not necessarily the biggest projecting fragrance from my few experiences wearing this. I wore this a few times. I'm not saying that it's loud and it doesn't necessarily project and the sillage is not huge, but it's definitely a thick sort of scent profile. That's what comes to mind. It feels thick. So you have the oud, and then you have the cardamom and saffron, and there are some sweet notes like dates. So there's something almost a little sticky sweet, but the sweetness is dark. There's vanilla in here. There's a note of halva, which I think is a dessert. And so I feel like this scent profile has been done. It's nice. But it's been done, and it may be a little bit played out, but it's definitely a nice one. And it's not something that I have because I normally stay away from scent profiles like this. And I did not realize that this one of the first fragrances on the list for fragrances that remind people of this one is Oud for Greatness by Initio. I've never smelled that, never gotten my nose on that fragrance. But the House of Ormonde, Jayne, is a French perfume house, and I would say overall does keep things pretty classy. So when it does delve into a scent profile, from my experience, even the vanilla fragrance that I have, it's not gloopy, sugary sweet. It always has a sort of twist that's a little classy. It's a classy take. And so even with this scent profile, even though I'm describing it as sweet and thick and that sort of oudy saffron cardamom that's been done before, it's nevertheless kind of in the delicate Ormonde Jayne sort of style. So it is nice for the scent profile that it is. It's nice for what it's meant to be. It's not a scent profile that I have. And so I think it's nice to have something different in my collection. How much I will wear this, I'm not sure. But my first impression of the fragrance is it's been done, and I'm not sure how much I will wear it, but it's nicely done for what it is. So the next one is from the house of Atelier des Ors, and this is Iris Fauve, which I have been dying to get my nose on for quite some time. And these bottles are very interesting with the gold specks in the liquid, which is kind of strange. And I'm not sure if I own any of the fragrances from this house. I did own Rouge Sarre, but I got rid of that one. It was a little bit too sweet. This one is really, really nice. I like this. It's a powdery fragrance. It's an irisy fragrance. There's myrrh, so there's this sort of balsamic aspect, and I find this quite powdery. I wore this, I think, about a good 3 times at this point. Twice to bed, and I really enjoy it. It's very powdery. It's a warm take on an irisy fragrance. And so if you like fragrances like Christian Dior's Bois d'Argent or Van Cleef & Arpels Bois d'Iris, this one is in that wheelhouse. Not necessarily something that smells like those fragrances. I'm not saying that this is a dupe for either of those fragrances, but I do enjoy that scent profile. And I knew from reading the reviews that this would fit right in, and it does. This is definitely my sort of scent profile, a preferred scent profile for me personally. While it's iris, it's not a cold iris. It's not a translucent irisy fragrance. It's, like I said, an iris with myrrh, and I think there's some cinnamon in here as well. So there's a warmth to the fragrance. And there's a powderiness to the fragrance. So it's a warm, powdery, irisy fragrance with myrrh, and it's really nice. Very, very nice. Definitely great value. This can be purchased at a discounter for maybe $100 to $120, which, when you consider the prices of fragrances out there, this is really nice. And if you like that sort of scent profile, I would definitely get your nose on this one. This has been around for a while. I think this was released sometime in 2016. The packaging is actually quite nice. The bottles are heavy. The caps are not magnetic, but they're quite heavy caps. So that's Iris Fauve from the house of Atelier des Ors. So the next one is a new release from the house of Dusita, and I wanted to show you guys the packaging, which is always so nice. So this is Tonka Latte, and I absolutely do not have fragrances like this in my collection. This is definitely gourmand, but I do like tonka bean in fragrance. And I figured I would try this because I like milky, I like tonka bean, I like the house of Dusita. And so I went for it, and I'm not sure what I think about this one. So this is definitely a deep gourmand. It's not a gourmand that feels like a bright cup of vanilla ice cream with colored sprinkles. And this is compared to Bianco Latte, and I just don't agree with the comparison. Although both are gourmands, yes, and I have a decant of Bianco Latte, and I did do a side-by-side. Bianco Latte is much more sugary, sweet, like a vanilla scoop of ice cream with colored sprinkles, while this one definitely is a gourmand, is a deeper, sort of darker take on a gourmand, while Bianco Latte, in my opinion, is like white, sugary, vanillic. This one is like a light tan gourmand. It's definitely gourmand. You have things like white chocolate, and there's caramel in here, almond, there's a milk note, and I feel like the honey in here plays a big role in the gourmand aspect. There's also a milky note. I'm not sure if I said that. So you have milk and caramel. So imagine a warm, milky drink that's chocolatey, and you have something almondy about it as well, something nutty about it. And imagine that there is like a caramel sort of aspect as well. And then this is drizzled with an abundance of honey. I get an abundance of honey in here. So it's very yummy, it's delicious, but I'm not sure that I would wear something like this, I have to be completely honest. It just smells too much like a food or like a warm, milky drink that's almondy and chocolatey and sort of caramel-like, and like I said, a big dose of honey. I just feel that I probably would not wear something like this. I was hoping that this would be more about the tonka bean. Lactonic, yes, I expected that, but I was hoping that it would be more about tonka bean. But there's just too much in here that is caramel-like and chocolatey and too gourmand, almost food-like. So I'm not sure that this one is for me, but if it sounds nice, you might want to get your nose on this one. So the next one is from the house of Ormaie, and this is Le Passant, which is a lavender fragrance in this house. Now, this house used to be an all-natural house, and I have been interested in this house for years, even though I've never spoken about this house on my channel. I was first introduced to this house when I purchased a bottle of number 28, which is a huge, sweet orange blossom fragrance. I purchased it in Italy about 3 years ago, maybe it's 4 years at this point. And I fell in love with the packaging. I fell in love with that fragrance. My taste has changed, but I will never sell that bottle of perfume because I purchased it in Italy, in Florence, and it just has a lot of memories attached to it. And then I ordered a bunch of samples, and I still have the samples, and I wear them from time to time. And I really like Toi Toi Toi, which is a woody fragrance, but I feel like in the dry down, it's too vanillic, so I'm always on the fence. And then recently they came out with some extraits, including an extrait of Toi Toi Toi. And so while I've been interested in Toi Toi Toi, the regular eau de parfum, now they have an extrait, but I heard that it smells completely different. And I haven't gotten my nose on the extrait. But the sample of Toi Toi Toi, I keep revisiting, and I absolutely love it. But I feel like in the dry down, it's maybe a little bit too vanillic, and so I'm hesitant. So this came across at a good price, and I snatched it up because I don't have a lavender fragrance in my collection, and lavender can pull masculine from me. I'm a little bit sensitive to that if it's too aromatic. But this one I read is very unisex, and indeed it is, even though there is a lot of lavender in here. So the note listing for this fragrance I think is kind of simple. I think there is lavender and tagette, which I think is marigold flowers. I could be wrong. And I think there's amyris in here with vanilla and maybe tonka bean, and there's some bergamot at the top for some freshness. So the fragrance is very, very fluffy. It's a very fluffy, creamy fragrance, and there's a lot of lavender. I'm going to spray this on skin. But even though there's a lot of lavender, I love the magnetic caps, by the way. The packaging is really nice. It's a nice, strong magnetic cap. Yes, even though there's a lot of lavender and it is definitely aromatic, there is something in the backdrop of the fragrance that keeps it from being barbershoppy or too masculine. For me personally, I'm very sensitive to that sort of aromatic scent profile. There's a freshness to the fragrance. There's a sort of warm, not sugary sweet, vanillic aspect. There's something fluffy, and I think the way the fragrance wears is creamy and fluffy, very, very smooth, round, very, very round fragrance. And even though I am getting a little bit of freshness and I am getting the lavender, which in and of itself is a clean sort of note, in my opinion, there is something warming about the fragrance at the same time. So there is sort of that warm sweetness. And I do think because I'm detecting the sort of warm component in here, a warm nuance, I do think that I would wear this in the fall, in the colder season. Maybe not as a winter fragrance. I would not think of this one as a winter fragrance, but at the same time, I feel like it is kind of cozy for a lavender-centric fragrance, if that makes sense. It's really nice. I like it. There's something a little bit spicy in there. So every time I get my nose on this fragrance on skin, I feel like I detect something new. Even though it seems simple, there is something green and maybe something a little bit spicy, and maybe it's coming from the tagettes or the amyris. I'm not really too familiar with those notes in fragrance, but this is nice. It's very fluffy, and it's not too aromatic. It's not too clean. It's not barbershoppy, and it's not too masculine. So this one is a very nice lavender fragrance. Like I said, something missing in my collection. I don't have any lavender fragrances, so I think this one is a nice one from the house of Ormaie. And the last one is one that I never thought that I would add to my collection. This is from the house of Louboutin. This is in their new Fétiche line of fragrances. The packaging is absolutely ridiculous, by the way. This cap is very, very strange. This is L'Ambre. And this one, I guess, is their amber in the lineup, although I'm not sure that I would describe this necessarily as an amber fragrance. So I did go and smell these before this purchase, and the line does have a few different fragrances that focuses on different notes, like there's a leather one, there's an iris one, there's a rose one. There are a few others, and this is their, I guess, amber, but to me, this is tuberose. So what I liked about this one is that it is a different take on an amber fragrance. So I am a huge amber fragrance lover. I like my amber fragrances, and I have a number of amber fragrances in my collection. I like dark ambers, I like lighter ambers, I like sweet ambers, I like spicy ambers. And this one is all about tuberose, but not just any tuberose, a green tuberose. And I can really appreciate a green tuberose. So I liked this right from the get-go. First impression, loved the fragrance. And I did not purchase it as an impulse buy. I sprayed it on skin. I took home some blotters with some of the other fragrances, and I like the iris one as well, but I have to test it on skin. And so this one was on skin, and I really did enjoy it. I was getting wafts of it for the entirety of the day, and I knew I wanted a full bottle. So this has black amber, patchouli, and green tuberose. I think the note is actually called green tuberose. So the note listing is quite simple. It's not an overly sweet amber fragrance. It's not an overly dark amber fragrance. It's not gloopy and rich. It's not that type of amber fragrance. I feel like it's all about this green tuberose, and there are equal parts of the green tuberose and the amber in here. So it's doing something with one of my favorite notes. Actually, it's a combination of two of my favorite notes in perfumery, tuberose and amber. And I just really like this. It's a little bit powdery. Like I said, it's not too sweet. It almost seems like there's something woody in here as well. I have to get to know the fragrance a little better, but I do like the way this is a green tuberose scent profile, but at the same time it's warm and it's ambery and it's a little bit sweet but not too sweet, and it's just a beautiful sort of combination of these two notes, the amber and the green tuberose, and it feels glamorous. It's not loud. It's definitely not a loud fragrance. I think the longevity was quite nice. I wore this once to work as my scent of the day, and I'm really enjoying this one. Although, like I said, the packaging is a little bit ridiculous. I wish that they would include a small cap, because this one is just not realistic, and it definitely cannot be taken on a trip. There's no way to travel with this. So this is L'Ambre by the Fétiche line of Louboutin. Let me know if you guys have tried any of these fragrances in this line. Like I said, I did enjoy the iris, and I would like to get that on skin and see what I think. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, your support, and your comments. Until next time, bye, guys.